All right, guys, it's that time of the week again, and unfortunately, things don't get a whole lot better this time around. It's Pass Rush Friday, and for the fourth straight week, there just isn't a lot to say. Well, there's actually a little bit more to say here, because the way in which things went down against the Saints was a little more interesting than usual. Normally, I would look at a game where we got only a few pressures, which, don't get me wrong, this game was definitely a case of that. And I would just be like, well, that sucked, on to the next one. But this one was kind of extreme, because not only did we not get much pressure, but the little bit of pressure that we got was mostly blitzing players who don't blitz that much. So it was the more exotic stuff that we threw with the Saints that actually worked. And it makes me hopeful that that's something they're going to notice and something they're going to implement more as the season goes on. Because we need to come up with some creative ways to generate pressure. Because the defensive line is showing that they can't consistently generate pressure on their own. The one game they did this year was against Denver, and Denver's offensive line looks bad. Like they're giving up pressure to everybody. So you look at that game and you kind of go, okay, that was a matchup that you were able to win, but since then, you're not winning very many matchups. And other than with one exception, we're just not getting that much out of our edge rushers lately. And honestly, even the one exception is, I mean, it hasn't been a great last few games for him. So you got to come up with something a little more exotic than just go get the quarterback here. So to show you guys what I mean, we got one pressure from the defensive line. It was Al Woods. He had a sack. Of all people, he was the one person to get a pressure. And he only played like 20-something snaps. Everyone else on the defensive line, except for, I think, Adams, played more. And none of them were able to get in there. And that kind of makes sense, right? The Saints' offensive line is good. The Saints have a nice offensive line. They can hold up. And they made life hard for us. They definitely did. So the defensive line, not a lot of pressure. Edge rushers, not much better. Not maybe worse. Taylor, invisible. Nwosu, nothing from him. I don't think he played a bad game, but he was mostly anonymous. Boye Mafe had the one pressure from an edge rusher. So he chipped in with one. Alton Robinson's not back yet. Daryl Johnson and Christian Jones, they didn't do anything either. So from your defensive line, you get one pressure. From your edge rushers, you get one pressure. That's it. Who did we actually get a little bit of pressure from? Well, mostly Jordan Brooks, honestly. He had two, which I don't know if Jordan Brooks has had two pressures in his career. That might be the best he's ever done. And one thing I noticed in this game was, I don't think Brooks played a great game or anything, but I think he played a better game in terms of his overall impact to the team, because he was allowed to blitz more. I feel like that's something he can do, and I feel like it's something that we need to do with him more often, because he can't cover. The dude cannot cover. The dude is a complete disaster in coverage. But he's fast, and I don't know if he's ever going to be an amazing blitzer or anything like that. I don't know if there's anything I see with him that makes me think he's going to be a 10-sack-a-year guy. But he can clearly produce in that area. So I want to see some more blitzing from Brooks, get him out of coverage, do something to make it so he doesn't have to cover as much, because he's just never going to be good at it, and putting him in that situation is just making him look bad. So he picked up two pressures in this game. Barton, nothing. Belor, nothing. And the reason why we didn't blitz as much as we did, I think, this is no secret. We sent a monster blitz at Andy Dalton in this game, and he dumped it off to Kamara, and Kamara basically had 50 free yards in front of him because we had sent, I think, Brooks and Barton on a blitz. And we probably looked at that and went, oh, well, we can't do that again. What a disaster. Never again. And I understand you don't want to get beat deep. You don't want to give up big plays, but I don't know if that's any better than letting Andy Dalton stand back there all day. So you got to be willing to play with fire a little bit here is what I'm saying. Cornerbacks, we actually did get another QB pressure from Kobe Bryant on the blitz. So Kobe In 5 games, with one of those games being a game he basically didn't play, he played 2 snaps. He's got 2 quarterback pressures and a sack. So he's adding a little something on that nickel corner blitz. So maybe we see a little bit more of that. So he added the pressure. And we also had a safety pressure from Josh Jones, who didn't play very much in this game, but he actually got involved with making Andy Dalton uncomfortable. And obviously Josh Jones is not a great blitzer. But if you can cook up something a little exotic, something unexpected by the opposing offense, if you can come up with something that takes them by surprise, you can still find a way to disrupt the play. Now, you add all that up, you end up with 6 quarterback pressures, which is in line with what we've seen the last couple games, and it makes a full month of football where we just haven't been able to generate pressure. However, what I can say, the good news, is that at the very least we didn't face as many pass attempts as we did against the Lions. So it's not as bad. The Saints ran the ball more. So it's a little more understandable. Still not good. Still very much not good. We have some guys on this team who have produced at a relatively high level in the NFL when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback, like Shelby Harris. Shelby Harris hasn't gotten a pressure in a month. I know he's been injured. That doesn't help. But he's been on the field for close to 100 snaps over the last 4 games. No pressures. This is a guy who's always managed to get pressure in his career. You've got Poona Ford, a guy who you were counting on being able to add a little bit of pressure as a 3-4 nose, or 3-4 end. And so far, very, very little. You're getting so little from this defensive line, it's pitiful. Quentin Jefferson, who is not a great player by any stretch, is by far your most productive defensive lineman when it comes to QB pressure. We're starting to see the pressures dry up from Nwosu, who was off to an amazing start this year. And there's obviously some big structural problem here. Like look at this. Pressure from your edge rushers is the bread and butter of an NFL defense. And over the last 3 games, we've gotten a total of 4 from all of our edge rushers combined. So it's a deep fundamental problem with this defense right now. And obviously, if things go the way that they're going, we're probably going to see some reversion back to the old defense from last year, which doesn't excite me because that defense was kind of bad too, but it was certainly better than this. And if that's what it takes to get this defense playing competently, then you got to do it. You do. I'm not thrilled about it, but you do have to do it. So what I will say is that if we stick with what we're doing right now, which, and by the way, this is possibly true either way, we can't expect guys like Darrell Taylor and Shelby Harris to just dominate people and get their sacks. Got to get creative. Got to get exotic. Got to get blitzy. You got to be willing to send those weird blitzes at other teams and live with the results. Sometimes the results are going to be bad, but it's okay. And that's the only way we can revert this, because right now this is looking like it's shaping up to be a historically bad pass rush. Through 5 games, you've got 37 pressures through 5 games, and you're not playing the greatest offensive lines in the world, right? Like, yeah, Denver you were able to beat up on a little bit, but Atlanta's offensive line is Like honestly, San Fran's offensive line, the interior of that offensive line's not that great, and you couldn't do anything against them. Now, you got to give it up to the Saints and the Lions. I think those are good offensive lines, but well, the lesson there is that it doesn't really matter. Your guys just cannot get it done. All right. See you guys later. Let me know what you think. Go Hawks. Another video coming later today.